Former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy shares his thoughts on the Harris-Walz economic plan.
We don't know a lot about the Harris-Walz economic plan, but it's been trickling out, and it's almost to a free market person or I guess a classic conservative. It's like watching A Clockwork Orange. I'm like this, watching what's coming out, whether it's raising the rate on corporate taxes or going up to...
Very quickly before they continue, we don't have a full political plan from the Harris campaign. We don't even have a full economic plan, but the things we do know about are this. She wants to do a child tax credit, $6,000. That's very similar to the Trump one. Most people support both on this. The other major one is going to be related to houses and first-time home buyers, where she wants to do a $25,000 credit. That, if you like it or not, generally depends on if you already own a home. If you do already own a home, that makes you less competitive in the marketplace, so you're not going to like it. If you don't own a home, well, you're going to like it because it makes you more competitive. The other things that we're hearing about are raising the corporate tax rate up to 28%. It's not the highest it's ever been. It's not the lowest it's ever been. Right now, people are pointing out a weakening labor market. Like, is this the best time to really jack up corporate tax rates? Is it just a talking point? Is she really going to do it? That's one thing to consider. But the one that's making many, many people rightfully mad is this concept of taxing unrealized gains. As of now, it's quote unquote for the wealthiest of us all, but name one single time that we've created a tax in US market history that it hasn't then been applied to basically everyone after X amount of time. In fact, you're not going to be able to name a time because it always ends up going that way. This concept of taxing unrealized gains, it's been tried in the past. Recently, it was tried in Norway. It was a massive net negative to Norway. So we have real life examples of it. But as soon as you look at the actual numbers and how it would work and what it would do, it would cause a massive exodus of wealth from the US. And then the people who are not in the financial situation to leave, who are still being applied to them, they would most likely have huge financial hits. And it would not only be destructive on an individual financial level, but most likely on like an entire economic level. But let's see what Vivek has to say about it all.
45% close to on capital gains for certain individuals.
Yeah,
it's a lot of populism,
or something.
But most people that defend it say, she doesn't really mean it. It'll never happen.
Yeah, so that's the irony here, Joe. And first of all, I agree with my friends at the Washington Post who...
Oh, sorry. Once again, the price gouging thing. Well, they're saying it's not price controls, but if it's not price controls, then how are you going to go against price gouging when we already have antitrust, anti-monopoly laws on the book to ensure that there isn't price gouging? Why is it there? I'll tell you. It's just because it's good headlines. It's the classic, like,
oh, I'm going to get the populist vote because we're going against those big, evil, greedy corporations.
When in reality, price gouging on groceries and food, they run between a 1 and a 3% margin. What do you mean price gouging? They're already at the smallest of margins. If you want to look at big margins, go look at something like tech, which is anywhere from 25 to 30%. But instead, they're picking an industry because once again, it has that feeling of like, oh, okay, groceries, I buy groceries. Yeah, groceries are up. So we need to stop price gouging. When in reality, it's not price gouging. We have the data from the San Francisco Fed. Daily put it out. They've done extensive studies on this. There is no price gouging in the world of groceries. Groceries are up because of inflation. The base cost is up. It is not because corporations on a percentage basis are making more profits. When you account for inflation, actually some are worse off. So when you think of companies like Kroger, they're still running in the same margins, if not less than they were before. It's just simply we're in the unfortunate situation that prices are going up due to inflation, which they're not going to talk about it, but it's because we just printed too much money. At the end of the day, the US government has a spending problem and we print too much money. We devalued the dollar by 25% in the past 3 to 4 years alone. If you go back the past 100 years, we're down by 95 to 97%. Are there probably areas of US economy where, yeah, okay, maybe capitalism's gone a little bit too far into the world of greed and it's destructive to other people? I'm here for that conversation, but they're not even talking about it at that level. Absolutely absurd.
Observe that if you don't want your opponent to tag you as a communist, then maybe your first policy should not be a bunch of price controls in the United States. We've seen price controls fail in every other major country that's tried it.
It's actually
Argentina,
never worked.
Venezuela, under Hugo Chavez, under Nicolas Maduro. The irony in Venezuela is that you actually saw undernourishment increase tenfold over the same period where they enacted price controls in the food industry, in the grocery industry. Yet that's exactly what they've proposed here. And I do think that the fact that this was her signature economic unveiling says a lot about where her vision actually is. To borrow Tim Walz's expression, Joe, if I may, it is just plain weird for them to focus even on the grocery sector if they were going to implement price controls. Because this is a sector in which you look at the profit margins of Kroger or Albertsons.
Oh, here we go.
You're looking at 2%, 1% profit margins. I saw that interview that Elizabeth Warren did with you, and I respectfully disagree with her. But she even brought up examples like Kraft Heinz or Cal-Maine. The reality is their profit margins are lower today than they were in 2015 to 2016. So yes, it is a just plain weird fixation. And the reality is, look at the defense of her policies. What you hear across the board is, it's not going to pass, don't worry about it. If it's the price controls, don't worry, Congress won't pass it. If it's abolishing private health insurance or banning fracking, which she's supported before, don't worry, it just won't pass. If it is the tax on unrealized capital gains, which everybody understands is going to be a disaster, what they whisper back is, don't worry, it just won't pass. And so the irony of this is that even the left-wing intelligentsia aren't defending the merits of her actual policies. All they're arguing to the public is that the reality is they will never be enacted into law. And I think that says a lot about the actual commitments of the Harris-Walz campaign.
We haven't gotten the full political policy idea set from Harris. A little bit on the economy, but not even the full thing. Some of them, like the child tax credit, seem pretty good, but the major idea of what is she doing with the corporate tax at this current moment in time, what is she doing with the price gouging, what is she doing with the unrealized gains, jacking up capital gains, all of this stuff, when the defense, as Vivek was noting, is don't worry, she's not actually going to get passed. That's a horrible policy idea. Then you should be able to defend it on if it would or wouldn't get passed, as in a legitimate idea, not just, don't actually look into it, it's not going to get passed at all. That tells you how far out of left field it truly is.